Hello, 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 and welcome to the live stream happy hour. My name's Eric Brayman, and we are so excited to be back with another conversation with a local artist. This live stream happy hour is a part of the Visual Arts Week celebration, which officially kicks off this Friday at the First Friday ArtWalk. You'll see that there's a link to the Visual Arts Week information I just dropped there in the comments, so we'd love for you to go learn more about Visual Arts Week and catch us this Friday. I'm super excited that we have a guest who is actually going to be a part of our Visual Arts Week kickoff. Joshua Caraco is here with us for the live stream happy hour. Welcome, Joshua.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
Yay, nice. We're so excited that you're here, and we just dropped a link over to learn you for those who are tuning in right there in the chat. So please go check that out, click on the link, and follow all the things to learn and stay connected with Joshua. But let's kick off with learning a little bit more about you, Joshua. So I've got a few questions here prepared for us to learn about you. And the first one is to tell us about yourself as an artist, because you are a musician, but you've got a very unique specialty. So tell us about yourself.
That's true. Well, I guess what I should do is show you my instrument. We're a little close.
There you go.
No, we're good. We're good. So this right here is a kora. Kora is a West African harp lute of the Manding people. They come from countries like Senegal and Mali, the Gambia, Guinea, Bissau, Guinea, Conakry. It has a gourd with a skin stretched over it and a bridge and 21 strings. And it's really the only instrument I play or play well at all. I mean, I dabble in piano and I sing a little bit, but mostly what I do is play kora. And I started playing it about 14 years ago in 2008 when I studied abroad in Senegal in college. And the first month I was there was Ramadan. And the day after, there's this big holiday, and some traditional musicians came to the house I was living at. And one of them, my family, traditional musicians, this music is like passed down in generations generally, and people sing, sometimes a traditional musician, they call themselves jali, or the French word is griot. Sometimes people say griot. It's English. And so sometimes people have like traditional praise singers come to their house, and this family I lived with had some traditional musicians come to their house, and they knew I was really interested in the instrument. And so they asked the guy who was playing kora, they were like, hey, you want to like give the white guy some lessons? And the dude who was playing was like, I won't, but my big brother in the corner, he will. And his name was Baba Kuyate, and he was my first teacher. He came about once a week for like 3 months. And he never came exactly when he said he was going to come, but he also said he would stay for like an hour and would stay for like 3 hours. It was very, when you hear about like Africa time or something, you gotta be careful when you use phrases like that, but things are kind of, they really sort of were like that where I was from a musician standpoint. Sometimes he would not show up for like a couple hours after he said he was going to, but he also said he was giving me an hour lesson and would sometimes stay for 3 hours. So
yeah. Like, what I hear in that is kind of the investment. The time is about the relationships. It's about kind of following the flow. And it sounds like that was a really deep and rich and meaningful relationship. So when you went there to Senegal, were you studying music when you got there, or were you studying abroad for a subject?
Yeah, I was just in like a general study abroad program. Like Senegalese history, culture, the language a little bit, French and Wolof. I got pretty obsessed with Wolof. I ended up deciding to be a linguistics major shortly after going to Senegal because I was really known for being pretty good at that. Which is interesting because Wolof is actually not the language most associated with the kora. It was not my kora teacher. It was the language spoken in the city mostly, which is where I was most of the time, Dakar. But it wasn't my kora teacher's first language, for example. We actually mostly communicated. we spoke Wolof to each other, but it was like a third language for both of us. We mostly communicated by like passing an instrument back and forth and him just like mumbling to me about like whether I was doing it right or not. But that was just kind of my first teacher. I had another teacher when I got back in the Bay Area, a guy named Kara Suso, who's from, he grew up in Mali and the Gambia. And then I also played in a big group called the Symphony of Koras. We had like 8 kora players, and one of them was named Solo Sissoko was the other. We had 2 traditional musicians. We had Karamo, my teacher, and Solo, who was also kind of a teacher of mine, who passed away a few years ago, so we kind of shouted out. And then I've taken a lesson here or there from other people, another guy named Yakuba Sissoko. A little bit. I just have to mention like names because it's
Well, that's important because you're learning that's an important
respect your teacher, right? Yeah, when you have like when you play a traditional like cultural instrument of a different culture, it is like important to recognize where you've learned stuff from.
Yeah. I know that we were having some mic issues with your professional mic, but could you play just a couple chords to give us an idea of what it sounds like, at least the idea of it? I know that it won't come through perfectly because the streaming platform hates music. But even just a couple chords, I wonder, just for folks to be able to hear a little bit from home.
Yeah, and I'm a little out of tune at the moment too. We didn't get a time to do that, but I guess I'll play a little. Did you want to try the other mic for like a second?
Yeah, go for it. Let's give it a try and see how long it. For those who are watching, we were finding out that about 30 seconds in, we got some static feedback. So
I'll just I'll switch the mic in a second. I'll do some quick riffs and of something, whatever comes to my fingers, and we can talk.
Yeah, so as you're switching over, I'll just kind of give people. I'll keep talking in the background, and once you're ready, just give me the thumbs up. Does that sound good? Awesome. So for those who are tuning in, we're here with Joshua Caraco. He plays the kora, which is a traditional West African. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in right there. It's starting to get a little bit staticky on us, it sounds like. We've got Thomas Kura, I believe, who's tuning in, who said that sounds remarkable, good over the web stream. So it does sound good until that static jumps in on us. And also, Thomas also did share that he's worked with you at the City of Eugene Block Grant Committee and thinks that you're a good fella. So thanks for being here, Thomas, with us.
That's pretty rad. I didn't know if like anyone was watching and would be commenting, so that's pretty cool.
There's a few folks that make it in there, and a lot of people watch the replay of it as well.
Yeah, which is great. So
Joshua, I'm curious, kind of with that's such a beautiful instrument. The sound, I've heard it in person, and it sounds even more magical in person. And for all those who are watching that are interested in hearing it in person, this Friday at the First Friday ArtWalk kickoff at the Farmers Market Pavilion, Joshua will be playing the kora for us.
Yeah.
So I hope you'll come down and join us.
Super stoked. Yeah, thanks for hyping that. I'm going to be getting my friend Fode Sila, who's a drummer, a percussionist. He's from Guinea. He lives in Bend right now. He lived in Cresswell when I first met him, and being in Cresswell, he would be in Eugene like all the time. And we played together a lot pre-COVID. And then he moved to Bend, but then he also got stuck in Guinea for like 6 months in like 2020, which at that time was probably safer than here. So that's kind of cool. Or the US generally, maybe not Lane County, but it was probably more fun. But anyway, so I'm stoked on that. We've hung out a little bit. He's taught some dance and drum classes here in town recently, but we haven't really gotten to play together as much. So when I got this little gig, I was like, "Hey, Fode, come play with me. I can pay you." And on that, so
I love it. So for those who are listening, not only do you get to listen to Joshua, you also get to listen to Fode. You're going to have an amazing kora and drum collaboration. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Well, Decorah, I want to hear a little bit more about your experience playing the kora in our community, because that's a really unique musical specialty. So what are some of the pros and cons that you found of that, of playing such a unique instrument in a community the size of Eugene and, being here in Lane County?
Thanks. Yeah, great question. I know we kind of we had an overview of discussion, but I of what question topics might be, but it's great to have kind of still off the cuff your own variation on it. You're a good interviewer here, but yeah. So I didn't come to move back to Eugene after these. I went to the UO and I left, and then I came back. I didn't move here expecting to be a kora player. It's still not my only way of making a living at the moment, although we're working on that. But so I think Eugene can be kind of a cool town to play an instrument as a side hobby, but being doing music as a career or any art form is challenging in a town like this. A lot of people a lot of bands, if they get big, they leave. You may have noticed that. Not to I think so, but my instrument in particular, I think it is hard to find venues that are appropriate to my sound. It's a quiet harp-like instrument, so it needs to be amplified properly or be in a very small environment. So I think, for example, sometimes people think, oh, you must where it must work out great as for busking as a street artist or something, because it's such a beautiful thing. It catches everyone's attention. People must want to come see that. And the truth is, I don't busk that much because it's quiet, so that I have to bring an amp, and sometimes I do. But it's an instrument where if you play outside on a street corner, people do notice it. They come up, and a lot of the time they listen for a few minutes. They ask you what it is, and then they walk away, and maybe they give you a little money. And we don't just play on the street for money. Some people do. Some people obviously I play an instrument because I love it. But when half the people coming by ask you what it is, and then don't often always really listen carefully, it can be kind of frustrating. And obviously playing an instrument like this, you do feel obligated. You don't pick an instrument like this that is culturally significant and not and expect people not to ask what it is. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, which you may not realize, is it can be kind of tiring sometimes to play an instrument where people maybe ask what it is, but it's quiet and they can't always hear it very well, or they just are more curious what it is than to actually listen to it. And that can be, but that depends. Some environments, when people are coming to really listen, that's great. I don't know. I've played some library gigs in the past that were kind of great because people go to a library to listen to events, are really excited about those, or cultural celebrations and stuff. But yeah, but
yeah, I can definitely see how the delicate sound of the instrument makes for a very specific needs, the very specific needs that come out of that. And it also sounds like I've also heard you say that this instrument really benefits from collaboration. Am I remembering that correctly? That was part of your excitement for bringing a drummer in for this experience at the Farmers Market Pavilion.
Yeah, I think any musician likes playing with other musicians. It's a very social activity. The great thing about playing with Fode is he's from Guinea, which he's not of the exact background of this instrument, but he actually grew up listening to it a lot and really knows the material, and may as well be. He's really, he knows he's more connected than I am to the culture originally, for sure. And so he knows the songs. It's pretty easy, even if, we have played together, but had we never even played together before, he could sit down and know some of the songs. So sometimes when I'm playing out, I'll be like, hey, you have any requests? And people they laugh, I'm joking. But if I go into a group of West African people and I'm like, hey, you have any requests? They'll start throwing songs out because I'm just playing my own version of traditional music that everyone knows. And so Fode can sit down and really enjoy it. I also, obviously, another thing about playing in a town like Eugene, an instrument, is I will get kind of more deep collaborations. I'm getting a little feedback, maybe it's you. Like obviously I've done a lot of work with Michael Malloy, who's a gumboot dancer from South Africa, which is, farther from West Africa than we are from New York City, is how I like people to think, because they can understand that distance. And the Africa map is really skewed. And then we've also worked with like John Mumbira and Rati D, who are both from Zimbabwe, and they work well with Michael because Zimbabwe and South Africa have some of the same ethnic groups and overlap, and they all speak Zulu. It's not actually all their first language, but they all speak it and feel comfortable. They'll just chow it up to each other, and there's some musical overlap and stuff. And so, Michael and I have this kind of main thing going, and then we get them involved, and it would it's this whole weird, I don't want to say like, I don't know, a lot of people like throw around like fusion, but I don't know what else to really like say, because that's kind of what it ends up being like, is it's this new thing where we mix different musical styles and traditions. That's a cool benefit of being in a place like Eugene, is just whoever's doing something kind of other. You meet all these, like, I meet lots of African immigrants who are from different parts of Africa, and we actually have like this large African community. We just don't necessarily have a lot of Africans from any individual country.
Mm-hmm.
They have a shared experience amongst themselves as immigrants, that if they're musicians or performers, and then, I know a little bit about that, then kind of it can work, and you can create something new that couldn't be created in, Africa, and it couldn't really be created here alone either. And so that's really cool, and it pushes you in some ways to be better. I mean, it's hard to like study the real traditional music. I have to get like recordings here and there, and and stuff, and take opportunities when I get them. But as like other than the deep culture of like the Manding music, as just an instrument, I can be pushed when I work with different people to play things, to work on different rhythms and different styles and stuff like that. And so that's exciting. Yeah.
So I hear kind of in this collaboration that becomes a big part of your artistry, in that sense of kind of connecting with folks who are coming from a broad range of experiences and identities that are coming into it, but have these kind of layers of intersectionality and connection, kind of through the many sounds that come from the African continent.
Yeah.
But what else? Kind of, I hear you hearing some inspirations in there. What other kind of excitements and inspirations do you find in collaborations? How have they changed you as an artist?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you're getting all the positives. It's cool, because when you asked me just about the challenges, I was like, oh, I can give you more negative stuff, but it's hard. Yeah. So, I mean, working with Michael has been like a big thing. I moved here, and I loved playing the music and learning about traditional music and just kind of dabbling in the background and whatever. I thought I might play some little like bars and stuff and like, have fun. And then I started playing with Michael like a few years ago. We met like in a backyard, which I think it was a party for Rati in John's backyard, and we were asked to play separately, just for like a few minutes each. And then later, Michael had some gig, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to like play open for me or something?" Because like dancing around on this little box and like talking alone, it like for an hour is a lot for me, or 2 hours. Like, and I was like, yeah, sure. It was like a winery or something. It was like there was some money and stuff involved. And I mean, yeah. And at one point I was like, hey, what if like while you did that stuff, because he had this like backing track that was just kind of this ambient noise. I was like, what if I like played kora music behind you while you did that, and like just instead of that backing track that's not really anything? And he was like, okay, we could try that. And then we ended up doing a little bit of that at Country Fair in 2019, like as part of this like bigger dance and drum show thing. And then we kind of started doing that more, and we got all these library gigs. And like it's started to seem like a really like it was kind of an act. And he's so theatrical. He's a guy who was in Cirque du Soleil for 11 years. Like he's more than just kind of musician. Like he's this really overall artist. And I do like when I was in college and when I was a teenager, I studied like creative writing and like poetry and story writing. So I could kind of help him. Like I kind of sometimes I mess with the order of things in our show and stuff, and but I've never been like a like the active storyteller performance person. But I do have like other artistic things going on I dabble in. But he's like, but I was mostly providing music to this thing. But then we ended up kind of fusing them, and we've been working on like making a bigger show out of it that's really more than music. We're still working on that. And so that's been really cool. Of course, then there was this pandemic thing. We had like 20 library gigs that were booked in June of 2020 that were all canceled. And then, so I mean, that was a thing. So then last fall, he got contacted by Pink Martini, which is this pretty big band from Portland. A lot of people have heard of. I didn't actually know much about them myself. That although I told my mom and she just like freaked out. They asked us to like open for them and then like play with them on like a song, and we ended up doing like 3 gigs with them. Hopefully, there will be more at some point. You go from there was 1 week last September of 2021 when we played at the Springfield Library. And then it's just, to like some moms and their children and a couple dads in there. And then that weekend we played at the Edgefield McMenamins and then the amphitheater in Bend. So, I mean, that was pretty inspiring and it was a pretty cool thing to do. And it got me thinking like, okay, like, maybe I've been doing a lot of work in like nonprofits and stuff, and it's still a thing that interests me. Thomas, I met, right? Actually, this is more recently, but on the CDBG Block Grant Committee. I'm active in our community in things that aren't related to the arts or music specifically. And so I kind of was doing both, but like music is sort of like a side hustle. So I've thought about, pushing that more. There are challenges. Michael actually took a job in Nashville for a lot of this year in a big show, is not here right now. So I've had a lot fewer of those gigs lately. So like there are challenges. We also, one thing, getting a grant from the Lane Arts Council. Hey, it's a question. I did. I got this grant, and it had something to do with my collaboration, and that was one challenge as Michael like left, but it also was kind of for me, and it was really good recognition, and it got me thinking. And one thing I kind of did was I was like, oh, hey, like I could get this little grant from Lane Arts Council. What else is out there? I've already like kind of gone through writing a proposal, and I'd written grants for like nonprofits before. I'd also written like this little grant for the Lane Arts Council, and I like kind of helped Michael with another grant that he got like a second place prize for, basically. It was still a pretty big deal. So I started looking around and applied for some pretty large grants, including one to the Oregon Community Foundation, to like put on a really big show next year. And we're still like waiting. There's like aren't official results yet, but I think like we haven't heard that we didn't get it yet, and there's still a chance, and that would be. So we have to work on this show that's like more than if we get some funding, we can put on a show that's like a lot more than just music, and I'd be really. So part of getting the Lane Arts grant was actually just like the act of planning to the grant was like, oh, this like little grant, like I know how to write a proposal now. I've thought about it. There's these like way more substantial grants that could actually help me like put something on. And I even have this little resume point that like Lane Arts Council supports me. It's amazing how it feels like you're just playing a game and you're gaming the system. But
yeah,
the truth is that's how that works.
That's really exciting to hear because, the grants can, we only have so much budget available to be able to give out to our community to support that work. But the biggest part of it is exactly what you're saying here is like, how can this support you in the trajectory of the work that you're doing? And I'm so excited to hear that having an accessible grant like Lane Arts Councils that you could apply to empowered you to take that big leap towards Oregon Community Foundation. And I hope I'm going to be knocking on every piece of what I walk past until you hear news back, because that sounds amazing. And I know that you and Michael would do something absolutely incredible with the funds that would be made available. So congratulations on taking the step to submit, because that's, one of the hardest things to do. I'm a writer as well. And so every writer out there knows that submitting is sometimes the hardest thing, because it comes with the reality that you might be denied. But to continue doing that effort and continue moving forward with it once you've started that momentum, that's the true courage of an artist. So congratulations on taking that step to submit.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a weird process. It's weird to like, so as someone who was like a creative writer previously, like I think I gave up on submitting things like pretty quickly, because that's in that business. You have to do it. It's when you spend like all your time just like submitting and getting rejected, and maybe you'll get like, I can't even, like, what is that? I mean, it's a little bit like that trying to book gigs. If you're like, we need to get a manager, because that's ridiculous. That's another back to negative things. It's so annoying to like send an email and like not even hear back from a venue, and you're like, it looks like we'd be appropriate, but but with the grants, it was just really crazy to think about doing that. It's a weird thing also for me at the same time, where I'm like, especially working with Michael, like I would never be able to apply this thing alone. I mean, you can flatter me all you want, but like I play a West African harp, and there's people out there who are better at it. But together we have this really unique idea. But at the same time, like I have all those writing and grant skills. And we talk about accessibility, I do think that's an issue, because I think it'd be kind of hard for someone like Michael and I make a great team, and it kind of takes like both of us. And that's a little weird, because I do feel like there should be some way where like individually, either of us, like for other reasons, like I could be looked at as having a viable idea on my own, and he could like, be supported to like, I don't want to say like write coherently in English, but I mean, like basically like, it's not like he doesn't speak English well, but like to write, it's not like it's first language. I mean, like basically, like.
Well, and also, I mean, you're hitting on something really big here, which is there is, I mean, we can get in, this is a whole nother live stream happy hour, but like, there's a real thing to recognizing that one of the ways that our society and systems have perpetuated white voices is by prioritizing those voices that speak from the perspective of a white upbringing and an American like educational hierarchy upbringing, right? And the reality is that we have incredible artists in our communities that were not necessarily raised or taught to speak in this dialect or way of writing that is prioritized or historically has been prioritized in our society. And so, that's, I will say, speak openly, Lane Arts Council is working really hard to be like, hey, review panel, if you're reading this and the grammar isn't the best, it's not about the grammar. It's about the idea. It's about the art. So how can we prioritize the idea and art over this perfectly executed application according to our standards of often.
And how do we, create standards that invite the right thing, and, and I don't have the answers to all these questions, but I do. But just like the process, it's even like the process for most of these grants is still kind of built around someone like me who like knows how to game the system, even when it like invites the ideas of someone else. Like that's again why I'm so like stoked to like work with Michael, because we can have it together, and I feel like I offer something valuable, but it also, is that whole complicated thing there. But
this has been such a rich conversation, Joshua. We are at our time. How quickly 30 minutes can go by. So I have a couple questions to make sure that we can be following you. What are some upcoming performances or projects that you have in the works that people can be looking out for?
Yeah, well, Friday, August 5th, I have this Visual Arts Week kickoff featuring Fode Sila on percussion. That's really the next gig I'm aware of that I have. I haven't booked much else, but we can keep our.
Sounds like you've got an open calendar for people to contact you
I
for all the
do.
great projects that they've got going on that you'd be right for.
That is absolutely true. I would invite. I also, if anyone wants to learn kora, I have taken students before. That's a whole other thing. But I like to teach. I have some extra koras. They're not super great, but they work. So that's one thing. But yeah, I am totally open to being booked for things. And fingers crossed on some of these large grants I've applied for, so you can keep a lookout for bigger projects in the future. I mean, even if we don't get the grants, I think we're going to try and figure out a way to do that. I just, there's a chance we might not be able to do something like that in Eugene, which is, I mean, back to some previous questions. It's like you might go somewhere, pitch it to somewhere where there's like different venues and more like money behind it or something. I haven't really, back to like having been forced to write pitches and kind of think about that and where I can go with this. Trying to put together a bigger theater show. But in terms of smaller like gigs, I love playing solo kora too. Like it sounds great. I was busking a lot about country fair where you can find quiet spots when I was there, and people seem to really like that. So
Well, for those who are interested in booking you, I know we have your website dropped down there in the comments, but how else can our community continue to follow you and support you on all the amazing endeavors that you have in the works?
I think that website is a big link. It's like a link. It's just a link to all my social media. So there's a Facebook and an Instagram and stuff. I probably post the most, like, not a lot, but I probably post the most little clips to Instagram. But there's a contact me form on there too. So I can be contacted through any of those methods on there. I will get back to you. I do actually look at like Facebook Messenger occasionally, although it's not like my favorite. But even if you send me a Facebook or like Instagram message, but I do have a contact me form on there too, I think. So that's a great way to get a hold of me. You can also stop by the event on Friday and just talk to me in person. I like house parties, private events are like pretty cool too. To do. I like playing to captive audiences that really want to listen, and kora sounds like pretty good that way. It's a great collaborative instrument for like big events, but I mean, I was most mesmerized initially seeing someone just playing kora solo in a close-up environment where I could actually hear and where they were interacting with me. And so, I think we're getting sirens in the background.
Well, that might be the cue. Well, thank you so much, Joshua. This was such a wonderful conversation. And for all y'all who are watching, please go check out the link tree to find all of the access to be able to find your way to Joshua. Come out this Friday for the First Friday ArtWalk and Visual Arts Week kickoff. We'll be right there at the Farmers Market Pavilion, and we'd love for you to come hear the wonderful music, art talks, and all the other wonderful celebrations that are going on with Visual Arts Week. And it sounds like you've got your next artist for the big party that you want to throw, or a small party, or a little gathering, or just the winery that you want to have a winery music at. So lots of different options to bring Joshua in.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, what was that?
I just said thank you so much, and thanks for all the work you guys do over at the Arts Council.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It was wonderful to be able to hear from you. And also, I can't wait to hear more of your music this Friday. And for all y'all who are tuning in, please join us again next Tuesday, where we will be with Miha Matrice, who is also one of our other grant recipients from this last round of grants last year. And she'll be telling us a little bit about her pop-up art shop that was a huge success recently. So thank you all so much. Happy Visual Arts Week kicking off this Friday, and we hope to see you all soon. Stay cool.